all over the headlines today is this high-speed luxury car crash in Kanpur, and that's triggered massive outrage. This happened Sunday afternoon. A young man was driving a Lamborghini. His name is Shivam Mishra. He went on a rampage, ramming into pedestrians and vehicles. The luxury car first hit an auto rickshaw, then it rammed into a parked Royal Enfield motorcycle. Then it, in the process, flung the rider several meters before crashing into an electric pole. 6 people in all were injured in this crash. Shivam happens to be the son of a tobacco baron called KK Mishra, and perhaps that is the reason why he was not even named in the FIR initially, even though he was driving, even though it's on video that he rammed into all of these people. The police promptly sent him for medical examination without ensuring that his whereabouts were known. So as a result of it, over 24 hours later, Shivam Mishra is evading the law despite there being proof on camera. Shivam's lawyer claims that he was not the one who was behind the wheel, and that is something, it's a standard defense taken by these rich and famous and their kids, that, oh, no, this person was not driving, it was a driver who was driving. Even when the family has refused to cooperate with the investigation, they blocked the police team from entering their house in Kanpur, their mansion in Kanpur, and yet the police have not given a good enough reason as to why this rich, spoilt brat who was responsible for the injury of 6 people, ramming his car into these 6 people, why he's not been arrested yet and why he's not been sent for a medical examination.
देखिए, मैं आपको बताना चाहूँगा, ये हाई प्रोफाइल मामला था जिसमें हिट एंड रन का मामला था, जिसके बाद पहले तो इसमें FIR लिखने में 4.5 घंटे लग गए। उसके बाद बाउंसर्स की मौजूदगी में कार को ग्वालटोली थाने में रखा गया और उसके बाद FIR की फर्द में अब इसका नाम बढ़ा दिया गया है, जिसके बाद पुलिस के 2 सब इंस्पेक्टर, 2 कांस्टेबल इस वक्त जहां हम खड़े हैं, देखिए आप साफ देख सकते हैं, 8/20 आर नगर यहाँ इस वक्त मौजूद है और पुलिस के ऑफिसर्स ने यहाँ दरवाज़ा खटखटाया और खटखटाने के बाद यहाँ किसी ने दरवाज़ा नहीं खोला। लगभग आधे घंटे तक प्रयास होने के बाद आप देख सकते हैं कि अंदर बाउंसर्स मौजूद हैं, 5 बाउंसर्स देखे जा सकते हैं जो वहाँ खड़े हैं, लेकिन दरवाज़ा किसी ने नहीं खोला। यानी कहीं ना कहीं पुलिस के नॉक करने के बाद भी इस दरवाजे को नहीं खोला गया और ऐसे में अब पुलिस की टीम निराश होकर यहाँ से लौटी और ये क्या माना जा रहा है कि अपने सीनियर ऑफिसर्स को इसको अवगत कराएंगे और पुलिस अपना नेक्स्ट प्रोसीजर करेगी, क्योंकि सब इंस्पेक्टर्स ने आइडेंटिटी बताई कि वो ग्वालटोली थाने से हैं और उसके बाद भी दरवाज़ा नहीं खोला गया। पहले जबकि देखिए बाइक भी यहाँ CCTV कैमरा लगा है, उस कैमरे के इसमें ऑडियो कैमरा लगा, उसके उसने बताया यहाँ से कि मैं सब इंस्पेक्टर हूँ, ग्वालटोली थाने से हूँ, ये ऐसे मामले में पूछताछ खिलाया। उसके बाद ही दरवाज़ा नहीं खोला गया। 25 से 30 मिनट बाद यहाँ से टीम वापस लौट गई। अब अगर पुलिस के अधिकारियों की माने तो पुलिस ने जहाँ एक और फर्द में नाम बढ़ाया तो पुलिस की टीम अब जांच में जुटी है और ये अनुशासनहीनता है और कहीं ना कहीं पुलिस के लिए भी एक चैलेंज है कि पुलिस की टीम पहुंची है, उसको दरवाजा ना खोलना कहीं ना कहीं एक क्राइम की श्रेणी में जरूर आता है।
So will the law not catch up with the high and mighty, the rich and famous, as it were? I'm now joined by a very special guest, Kiran Bedi, former IPS officer, former Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry. So this businessman's son, a business baron's son, he was allegedly drunk while he was driving. He was speeding his Lamborghini. It lost control. It rams into a crowd. Several people are injured. Thankfully, nobody died. But the worst part, ma'am, is he then gets into an argument with the people who've gathered there. His bouncers are trying to push and shove the people who've gathered there. He attempts to run, but the crowd catches up with him. The police have launched an investigation. They've seized the car. But so far, this boy has not been arrested. It's almost like, you know, he can do what he is doing and what he has done and get away without fear of arrest.
Well, that's the image of the law is unequal. In India, it's an unequal law. One law for the high and mighty and the other law for the underprivileged. So I think that's reflective repeatedly again and again. And number 2, which is very general, correct, is the fear of law. There is no fear of law. Unless we raise the fear of law and certainty of punishment and then not being able to get away with it, whoever you may be, things will not change. And this is getting exposed again and again. We don't do any surveys. If we would do a snap survey of fear of law amongst the citizens, they will say fear of harassment, but not fear of law.
But tell me, drunk driving, and that too ramming people, injuring them while you are drunk, at the very least, shouldn't his license be confiscated? Shouldn't he never be allowed to drive another car again?
Yes, he can be. The law permits you to suspend the license. The law permits you to suspend the license. But how many licenses have been suspended? Can we do a survey? Can we do an RTI? See, how many licenses have been suspended of persons who did drunken driving, that they can't drive for next few years or so? It is, the laws exist, but there is a lack of implementation of the law. Also, probably knowledge of the law. And there is no fear of law.
So the sense of entitlement as well. Like I said, he should have never been behind the wheel of a car, drunk. That he did. And then he's not able to control his car, he rams into people. And the sense of entitlement that after ramming into people, he can just walk away from that place, from that scene, as though nothing happened. And it's only because the crowd got restive that he finally got apprehended.
Wherever you, I don't know. But if he walked away, I think the concerned station house officer or the police officer who was dealing with it has a lot to explain. What is he afraid of? Why did he walk away? Why? What made him let him go? I think that the answer can only come from the SHO, because this is certainly not done. Totally not done. Case should have been registered and he should have been arrested by now.
So one suspension of a police official has happened.
And instead, Raka, he should have been even sent for medical examination.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at. If this whole thing was basis his drunk driving, then the alcohol in your blood alcohol level sort of is there in your body for about anywhere between 24 to 48 hours. Would that not have already been, diminished somewhat, if not gone already from his system?
No. The urine sample will tell you of, even if it's a few days back, it will tell you. The urine sample will indicate. So I think the blood sample and the urine sample. Besides the breathalyzer, if it's been a long time, maybe the breath has got weakened of a smelling of alcohol. But the bloodstream and the urine sample will give the evidence.
So isn't that the first thing the police are obliged to do when somebody is caught in an accident or has lost control of his or her car? One of the first tests that you do is to send this person for a quote-unquote medical, right?
Absolutely. He was supposed to have been arrested and then sent for medical examination.
And that clearly did not happen in this case.
In this case, if he's walked away, then you've lost very important medical evidence, which we were. So they've allowed him to go, if he's allowed to go, to save himself from medical evidence.
Is it possible now, ipso facto, post facto, to try and, apprehend him and then send him for a medical? Will it at all serve the purpose?
It might, because traces of this will be still available in both blood and the urine sample.
The contrast of the two stories, the one that happened last week, where a young man met his death because he fell into an open pit that was dug up by the Delhi Jal Board. And today you have the story of a boy with a silver spoon ramming into people, injuring them, basically showing that these are the two contrasts, these are the two Indias that we're living in.
Very serious deficiency in grassroots governance. And there's a very serious deficiency in our grassroots governance. And I think our grassroots governance is collapsing. It's collapsing. It's being very selective. It's only being used. It's not delivering. And that's a serious implication, and that's a serious concern for the seniors. And remember, grassroots governance only collapses when the middle level and the top level leadership becomes weak in oversight and supervision and training and involvement and teamwork and grassroots work themselves. I think this is what's happening. The grassroots governance is totally now very weak. People are only afraid to even connect with them because they're not assured of the response. The only thing they can think is, oh, if we go, I will be harassed, or I might get into it. So I think the problem is, it's people at large are losing trust in the grassroots minimum governance, and the fault lies in both middle level leadership and at the top level. Because they're not, it's a disjointed, disconnected governance at the moment between the top and the bottom.
Okay, Kiran Bedi, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us here on Brass Tacks. Thank you.